Hey there, it's Jen with Silhouette. Today I wanted to show you how easy it is to make your own custom cards, and I wanted to show you a few different ways to do this, including how to make a card out of any shape that you have, add borders to cards, add cutouts to cards, and things like that. So there's 4 different cards that I'm going to show you today, and the first one I wanted to show you is just how to make a shaped card. And so you can use any shape that you have. I happen to be using a symmetrical shape, but you don't have to be using a symmetrical shape. And I'm just going to make a card out of this heart here. So the first thing that you'll want to do, this doesn't matter as much if your shape is symmetrical, but if it's not, you'll definitely want to do this. You'll need to mirror the image that you're using to the right. And so to do that, we're going to go up to the replicate window, which looks like a little flower kind of, and choose mirror right. And now we have 2 of the shape, and what we want to do is just slightly overlap them. So I'm just going to select my shape and I'm going to nudge it over with the arrows on my keyboard, and I'm just going to overlap them enough so that where they meet will be sturdy enough to hold up to being a card. And you can go as far in as you want, or leave it pretty, not overlap them too much. So I'm just going to do it just how I have it here. And then I'm going to select both of my shapes, and while I'm making cards, the align window is my best friend. I just want to make sure that everything is lined up correctly. So I'm just going to do align middle to make sure that they're aligned properly. And then I'm going to go to my modify window and choose weld. And now you can see they're welded together, and you can make a card out of it. Now I like to put a little perforated line where I'm going to fold it. So I'm just going to take my line tool and draw a line down the center where the pieces meet. And I'll zoom in a little bit so that I can make sure that I get it right in the center. And then what I'm going to do is change that line to a dotted line. And that way it'll fold nice and easily. So there's card number 1. You can do that with any sort of shape. It doesn't have to be symmetrical. Like I said before, you could do that with a banner shape. It would be fun, or like an artisan frame type shape. Anything that you want to try, you can do that. The next card I wanted to show you was how to add a border onto a card, like a shaped border. So I'm going to use the scallop edge here. And I'm doing a standard size card, so I've already got the rectangle drawn 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm actually going to do it vertical, so I'm going to rotate it really quickly, and I'm going to rotate my scalloped edge as well. So I think that the easiest thing to do is to start with the size of your finished card and build from there. So the first thing I know is that I want this scallop to go the full length of the card. So I'm going to change it so that the height of it is 5 1/2, just like the height of my card. So I'm going to go to the scale window, and on my width, well, first of all, I'm going to choose lock aspect ratio because I don't want it to get distorted in any way. I'm going to just type in 5.5 on the width. And now it is just the exact same height as my card. So you could do this a few different ways. It just depends on what you want your finished card to look like. But I want mine to have the scalloped edge on the front flap of the card. And so I'm just going to line it up. I'm going to pretend like I'm just going to layer it like it were folded in half as the finished card. So what I want to do is just have the scallop come clear to the edge of the card, but if you wanted to, you could move it so that there was more of the inside of the card peeking through, just however you want to do it. But I'll just go ahead and line it up basically with the edge. And then what I'm going to do is draw another rectangle that's just slightly overlaps that border. And I'm going to select that rectangle, and I just want to make sure that it's the same height as everything else. So I'm just going to type in 5.5 for my height. Then I'm going to, while it's still selected, go ahead and hold down my Shift key and select the border as well. I'm going to make sure that they're aligned properly. Like I said, the align window is going to be your best friend. So I'll choose Align Middle, and now they're nice and lined up. And then I can go to my Modify window and choose Weld. So now I've got one piece for the front of my card. So now I want to put the two pieces of the card together. So I'll move it off to the right. And I'm just going to overlap them slightly. Again, select both, go to my Align window and choose Align Middle just to make sure everything's lined up properly. Now, before I weld these, I'm actually going to draw my dotted line for my perforated line to fold it, because after I weld it, it's going to be hard to find the center. So I'll just draw it now. I'll zoom in just a little bit so I can see better. I'm just going to draw it down the center of where they overlap. Again, I'm holding down my Shift key, oops, and I'm clicking other things accidentally. Okay, let me start that over. So, start at the top, holding down Shift, and drawing the line all the way to the bottom. And then I'm just going to move my line over a little bit so it's more centered. And then I can go ahead and make it a dotted line. Again, I'm just going to the Line Style window to do that. Okay, so now I've got my line drawn. So I'm going to select the other two pieces, Modify and Weld, and now I've got my dotted line down the center and my card is ready to be cut. And in a minute here I'll show you all the finished cards cut so that you can see a finished example of what they look like. So there is how you can add a border to a card easily. Now there are a couple different ways to do cutouts that I wanted to show you. The first way that I want to show you is I wanted to make a card. It's going to be a vertical card that flips up, but I wanted the bottom part, the inside, to peek through on the bottom, and I wanted there to be cut out arrows out of that piece that's going to peek through. So I want the arrows to all be pointing toward the right, so I'm going to go ahead and rotate my little triangle here, just in my rotate window. And I want it to be a row of 5. So you can do this a couple different ways. You can either just drag copies to the side, and then we can align them in a minute. Or if you wanted to, you could go to the replicate window and do row 4. But these are super close together and I'd have to move them apart anyway, so I just find that it's easier for me to just drag my copies off. So then I'm going to select them all, go to my Align window. I'm going to choose Align Middle so that they're all lined up, and then I'm going to do Space Horizontally so that they're all evenly spaced out. So now you can see it's a nice even line. Then I'll go ahead and group them together, and then I'll center it on the card base. So again, I'm just going to do Align, oops, not middle. I'm going to do Align Center. There we go. And actually, I might move them up just slightly and do Align Center again. Okay, now that I've got that ready to go, so that will be the inside of the card, I'm going to go ahead and do the subtract tool on this because it's going to be a cutout, and then it will all be one piece and these will be cut out at the base. And you can see that if I go ahead and color it, that it's a cutout. So this card is going to flip up, and so it's a little bit trickier the way that we want to do this because we want to make sure that this piece is the inside of the card. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do it a little bit differently than we did the other one. You're going to take the front of the card and move that below, and then this part will need to be flipped over. So I'm just going to right click and do flip vertically, and then I can go ahead and align these two pieces together and get them welded. And since this card had a rounded edge, then it's easy for me to see where I need to draw my line. But if I had been doing a straight edge, I probably would have drawn my perforated line before I welded, like I did on the last card. So again, I'm going to just zoom in and make sure I got that straight. And I can make it a little bit smaller. It's hanging off the edge there. And then I'll just go ahead and go back to my line style window and make that a dotted line. So there's 3 cards down. Now I want to show you one more. And this time I wanted to have an arrow cut out of the center of the front of my card. So I've got this arrow, and it's already, I've measured it to fit the width of the card. Not exactly, but that's fine. And then I've got my 2 pieces that I want it to be sandwiched between. So again, I'm just going to assemble this like it was the finished card. I'll put my top piece and my bottom piece on the front here. And then this arrow I want to be pointing towards the right, so I'm just going to rotate it really quick. And I'll just line it up so that it's slightly overlapping both that top and the bottom piece, and I'm just going to put the end of the arrow to the very edge of the card. And actually, before I do that, I want to zoom in here and just make sure that I've got the pieces lined up with the base of the card so that when I weld them later, it'll be nice and straight. So I'm just going to fiddle with that to make sure it's right. Okay, so now I'll go ahead and select all 3 pieces, go to my modify window and choose weld, and now you can see I've got this front piece, and that arrow will be cut out of it, and if I color it you can see it a little bit better. So that'll be how it is, and then that'll be the front of the card. And then whatever's on the inside of the card can peek through. So I'm going to go ahead and take that fill color off. And so I'll just move this to the right of the base of the card, just like we've done before. I'll select both pieces, go to my align window, and align middle, and then I can go ahead and weld them together. And I've got this little piece right here that's going to help me line up where my line needs to go. So just go ahead and move that right to that piece. And then make it a dotted line, just like I did before. And now we've got 4 different ways to customize your cards, and I'll go ahead and show you how those turned out. Okay, so here's the first card that we made, and it's just the heart that's welded together, and you can see it just folds open. So that's just a simple card. The next card we made was the one with the scalloped edge, and you can see that the inside of the card pokes through there. So you can kind of see that there. Next we made the card with the piece that hangs off the bottom, and I've just added a little bit of pattern paper behind that, but you could leave that open if you just wanted the arrows to just poke through there. And then lastly, we've got that little arrow card. So I've gone ahead and added a pattern paper behind it, but you could definitely just leave this open and have it poking through towards the inside of the card as well. So there's lots of different things that you can do and different ways that you can customize cards. I hope that you'll have fun with it and share your projects with me. If you have any questions, leave me a comment. Thanks for watching.